Hey, how's everyone doing? I came on here because, um, sometimes we, as people, as individuals, we tend to, especially the church folks, I want to focus on that for a second. Since we're in this COVID-19, and hopefully we have all had something to learn from within this. Everyone has their own destiny that they have to fulfill. Everyone has their own life to live, and everyone has their host of problems and issues. Um, and how you, what you believe and how you believe determines on the outcome of how your situation will turn out. Okay. But with that being said, we all go through situations and trials and triumphs, and different things happen to us, and that it's not just for us to go through and stay quiet about it. It's for us to go through and tell someone else. So it's good to know our history, and there's a lot of things that you can take from our history, a lot of different points of views that you can take from it. So when you look at Harriet Tubman, she was radical, not necessarily rebellious. There is a difference. She was radical even though she broke a rule that she wasn't supposed to leave off the plantation, but she went on ahead and she left off the plantation. She escaped from the plantation and went through the Underground Railroad in order to come back and rescue other people and set the other slaves free. All right? And a lot of times that's what happens in our life. Sometimes we have to be able to go through something in order to tell somebody else something. Okay? When we think about going to church, and everybody's on a different level spiritually, so, but I truly believe that God is not just calling for the tradition no more. Tradition brings about stagnation and doesn't necessarily bring about change or cause you to go higher and higher. Tradition will bring you to a point of stagnation. If you think about it, you go to a church every day and, you go through the same old routine over and over and over again. You have praise service, you have testimony service, you have um, offering, okay? Offering takes, it's a whole nother service by itself, all right? And then, you have the service to go on, and all you all do is just shout, have a good time, eat, and go home, and that's it. And every time you're doing the same thing, at some point you're going to feel unfulfilled because there's no difference there. Or you can take it from a family point of view. If for 24 years all you've known is to sit with the family every day, every single day for 24 years, you've sat with the family, and all you've done was go to school. As you get older, you go to school, you go to work, sit with the family some more. As you graduate, you go to school, go to work, you sit with the family, talk with the family, do this and that and the other. Eventually, you're going to want to break out. Okay? Eventually, you're going to feel suffocated. And that's just the way it is with tradition. You feel suffocated. And sometimes people try to make you fit in this box um, with just being in tradition, but everybody's not going to fit in that box because God needs radical people, right? He needs radical people to actually speak out. Pray, yes, pray, but also speak out. All right, we have. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a an athlete in order to speak out on the injustices that are going on. You could speak out. You can use your media as a platform to speak out. You can use your testimony as a way to speak out. You can use your what you've been through to as a way to speak out on the injustice. If you ever been in a domestic violence situation, and I know I have, all right, I'm going through one myself. My child's father just barricaded me uh, inside of the lobby of the police station on February 28th of 2020. So I used that as a way to speak out on the injustice that is being done. Even though I had an order of protection, they said that they didn't want to see it. They told me that we don't want to see it, and they denied me of a police report. Yes, they did. But I still use that as a way to speak out on domestic violence. Why? Because it's happening all too much, and the police officers are not doing anything about it. They're not doing enough. The city is not doing enough. The government is not cracking down on the officers who allow the abuse to happen, and they're just as guilty. If a woman dies and she's been going down onto the police station and they see the abusers or whatever, and they say, well, just go back to court, then you know what? They're still at fault because they're allowing it to happen. Who knows when another court date is going to come about? That's why the police have to. That's why the police is there to enforce whatever law or whatever rule the judge has sent, or whatever law that's in place. The police officers must enforce it, okay, and make sure that whatever bring peace about the situation. Yes, but if you have a violator, you just don't allow the violator just to go steal. If he's stealing, then you arrest him, right? If a person is abused, if a man is abusing a woman, or vice versa, a woman abusing a man, and they have abusers or whatever the case may be, then quite naturally you don't take both of them to jail, and that's what's going on. People are not speaking out about the injustices that are happening, and primarily because women are afraid. And that's true. But there's got to be at least one or two, three, four, five, six radical people who are ready to speak out and say something about it. Just like the injustices that are going on with the cops. Now, I don't believe all white people are bad. All white people are not bad. And it's good to pray, but it's good to also get out and speak. You have some pastors that are in politics. You have some pastors that are actually have a title of a mayor, or have a title of a superintendent in a school, or have a title of whatever, and they are Christian. That's your civil duty. That's your civil right to speak out about the injustice, not just sit back and pray. And praying is good, don't get me wrong, because you must pray before you do everything. If a person is wanting a job, what do? They go out there and they go and look for a job while praying. They just don't sit at home hoping and wishing that they get a job. Faith without works is dead. Okay? If you want a position, you get ready for the position. You act accordingly. You just don't say, okay, Lord, I want this position. You never prepare for the position, right? You have to prepare for the position. You have to act like you already in the position. You have to know the qualifications of the position. You may not be qualified or have all the qualifications of that position, but you can know that position and know what to do before you get in that position. So that's the same way it is when we are actually speaking out. We may not have a doctor's degree or be an athlete or, be a lawyer or a mayor, but we can still speak out on the injustices that are going on. Because just like it affects me, it affects you, it affects our whole nation. And as colored people, we shouldn't be so quiet about certain things. Especially if you're working inside of the police department. I can't see my brother or my sister from another mother being brutally murdered, and I just sit there and just watch it and not say anything. When our loyalty to a group of people or to a agency is, if our loyalty is to them and they're not, if they're corrupted and we're still being loyal, that's no more loyal. That's stupidityness. I'm not going to sit there and watch my brother or sister bleed to death and knowing that they're sitting in the middle of the street, and I now say, okay, you know what, you're guilty of this. You're guilty of this heinous crime. I'm just not. And I think that, many a times a lot of officers do know, especially the ones that are of color, but because they work for the police station, they feel as though, okay, well, we don't have a voice in the matter because we work for the police station. The devil is a liar. You have a voice too. And you can speak out too. You can say something too. It's not just about, being a police officer, but it's about having integrity. Integrity is speaking out or doing the right thing when no one's around. It's also about speaking up when things are going wrong. Because you can't be loyal to corruption and then you're trying to hold your morals to the highest level. No. So if we're allowing our black men to be slaughtered in the streets and we're not saying nothing, it's wrong on so many levels. And I do believe that we have a civil duty to speak out. We have a civil right to say something, to call our mayors up, to call our aldermen or alderwomen up, to express our concerns because we do pay taxes. And it's amazing to me when you really go back and you do the American history, when you just have the 13 colonies, and the British was in control then, okay? And when the British was in control, they don't really say it as slavery, but it was really slavery, okay? When the British was in control, what they did was, they told them what to do or whatever the case may be. But it wasn't, the 13 colonies didn't fight back until they threatened their money. Wait. About 10 years ago, and it was all over the news. About 10 years ago, you had a governor of Illinois who embezzled a whole bunch of money and tried to sell Barack Obama seat. Now, Barack Obama, he was just still in, it was been more than 10 years ago now. But anyway, he tried to sell Obama's seat, okay? And they sent him to jail because he embezzled money and he tried to sell Barack Obama's seat in presidency. And he was Barack Obama then was, he was running for president. And so they sent him to jail. Now, here we are in 2020, and a man in Minneapolis, an officer, is on camera, just as bold, and kills a man right before different people and didn't care. Now, I don't understand why money would make a person move so quickly. But a black man's life, you only just fire the man and okay, we done something about it. But let it have been for money, you're gonna throw a white man in jail, but this white man committed a crime in front of everyone, and all you do is just fire him and do not even have the audacity to send out an apology for what your officer or that particular officer in that state done. That's too bold. So we as people, we as Christians, we have our duty to pray, but we also have our duty to speak out. We also have our pastors that can speak out upon a situation. We also can pray and fast that God move in a mighty way. Because if God, I'm going to tell you something, God is something else. I mean, boy, was there a city that God just tore up from the floor up. I mean, if we all gathered around and we prayed, God will send an earthquake, do you hear me, to that particular city. And don't even think about getting in the way of it, because you might get a little whooping too. When God gets ready to whoop, he whoops. Do you understand me? Because that is just so wrong. I cannot breathe, and yet he still put his knee in the man's neck and made sure that he died. Didn't call the ambulance. He made sure that he died. Cold blood murder. At some point, we got to realize that, yes, we're living in a time, and you could say, okay, well, you know what? What's the use of praying? What's the use of speaking out? Because the Bible's going to fulfill itself. Yes, the Bible is fulfilling itself. But at least we could reach one person. At least our story, our testimony could at least reach one wicked person and change their life around. At least one person who feel like they're struggling in life, who feel like they are sinking in life, because we as Christians, we get hit hard because we are claiming Jesus' name, all right, and we are believing in something much more greater than just planet Earth. we already understand that planet Earth is not our home, but it's in heaven that's our home. So we're believing in much more than just planet Earth, than just the existence of life right now. We're believing in heaven, and we're believing in the ultimate goal, which is going to heaven, spending eternity with Jesus. Okay, so but meanwhile, while we're here on planet Earth, there's plenty of things that we could be doing, such as speaking out, such as praying, such because I don't believe that God will just allow this man to just get away with cold-blooded murder. I don't believe that God will just allow this man to just murder this man in front of all these people and God not do anything about it. Oh, but we can call the angels up from heaven, honey. And I guarantee you, sometimes you be wondering, like, okay, well, you know what? Why does state have such a hard time with tornadoes and earthquakes? That's because they're getting a good whooping. And sometimes you just got to stay out of God's business. When them tornadoes and thunderstorms and everything else be happening, you got to stay out of God's business and leave God's business alone, because he obviously shaking up that city for whatever reason. And when God's get ready to take up some of these other cities that have allowed things to happen, don't be getting in God's way. Stay out of God's business. Leave it alone. Sometimes we tend to get into God's business when God is trying to correct something within that city that are a bunch of people to pray for, and then we want, Lord, why? Because you never know what that city may have done, and God is trying to get them. This man that he killed may have been one of God's soldiers, and he killed him, or no, excuse me, murdered him. And God is going to repay that man for what he has done. God is going to repay that commissioner for what he has done. I just don't believe that God is going to allow the commissioner or that police department to get away with what they have done, for what they have allowed to happen. Because when you allow something to happen, you are just as guilty as the man who done it. I don't care if you're black, white, Chinese, whatever the case may be. As long as you associated with this man and you did not say anything to him, neither did you stop it, neither did you prevent it or anything else. I don't believe that God is going to allow this man to be just walk away for free. Walk away free. No. And some of these cities now are going to get hit hard. And I can tell you that now. Some of these cities are going to get hit so hard because they have allowed stuff to happen. They have allowed things to go on that they knew that was against the law, that they knew that they had covered up. And God is going to expose it just like he's doing now. And when he started exposing them, when he started sending earthquakes and everything else, don't get in God's business. That's where you better be somewhere praying. That's where you just better be quiet then. When God starts shaking up these cities, then it's time to be quiet and pray. But as far as right now, you speak out. You speak out and tell the goodness of God. You speak out and tell your testimony. You speak out to your leaders. You go and vote. Because guess what? You can't do God's people wrong. God said, vengeance is mine. Now, God may not get them tomorrow. He may not get them the next day. He may not get them next week. But trust me, when God say vengeance is mine, he means every bit of it. Trust me, he means every bit of it. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. I will repay. And you can't beat God repaying. Now, how God gonna repay? Who knows? But God will repay. Because who knows? That may have been a man of God. Nobody knows if he was a soldier or not. But I guarantee you one thing: they're gonna pay. And while I'm speaking of it, we have a president that's in office that's a narcissist, and man, it's I America has had so much blood on its hands that it is a shame. America should be charged with so much stuff. It's funny. If if the people of God was not living on planet Earth, this earth would just be destroyed right now. But because God still have people, when you look back in the Bible, in the biblical times, and you see how God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, right? You had Abraham who was pleading. He said, well, if you find one good man, if you find 90 good men, and he went on down from 90 to 80 to 70 to 60 to 50 and so on and so on and so on. Okay? Not one righteous man was in that city. What did God do? He destroyed the whole city. Because he could not find not one righteous man in that city. Not one. So God went on ahead and destroyed the whole city. He saved Lot because Lot was associated with Abraham. He was Abraham's cousin to be his nephew to be exact. It was his nephew. A lot of people say it was his cousin, but it was actually his nephew. So God saved his nephew. He rescued him. Other than that, it wasn't nobody else. And that's the same way it is now. If people of God was not living on planet Earth, in none of these cities, God would totally destroy it. And the reason why is because America has allowed greed to happen. And greed was there from when they had created the articles. Greed was there when they had created the Constitution. Okay, a lot of that Constitution was based around money. It wasn't just based around freedom and everything else. And I truly believe the compromises was the slavery folks, people who was in slavery. They made compromises in order to get the Constitution out there. So slavery was a compromise. Hey, we're going to keep slavery in just to get the Constitution. Slavery wasn't outlawed until some time later on. Okay? So America is at fault for a lot of different things. So it says in Jeremiah that when you have a good king, the people rejoice. And when you have a bad king, the people mourn. People are mourning. People are feeling like they're being choked out. And it's not just the white folks, it's the black folks, it's the Chinese folks, it's a whole bunch of other folks that stand over in America. Why? Because America has done so many dirty deeds to its own people that God is getting ready to start his whooping. And when God starts his whooping, don't you get in the way. Do not get in the way. When God started sending out earthquakes and everything else, don't get in God's way. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Because these are the cities that allowed our black men to be slaughtered. These are the cities that took, when you think about how many times people, even in Texas, and all over the country pretty much, where people have sat there and they made people, put people in jail, and made them stay there on a traffic ticket until they was able to pay. That's a form of slavery. And they knew that some people who came up poor could not afford it. So they missed out on their family because they wanted money. That is called greed. And God is going to deal with a lot of these judges too. Ain't nobody going to be, when God said vengeance is mine, he mean that. Okay? These judges, just because they're a judge don't mean that they won't get a whooping by God. And I don't care if they don't believe in God. You believing in God, does that not make him real? He's still real, regardless of a person believing him or not. He's still real. He's still real. God still created the heavens and the earth. I don't care how many times people want to try to prove a point with science. God still created the heavens and the earth. God still is speaking. God still made everything that it is. But God is still going to dish out whoopings. God is still going to deal with people who were in authority, who knew that they shouldn't have never murdered, or knew that they wouldn't supposed, or knew that they judged the situation wrongfully out of an impure motive. God is, I'm telling you, God is getting ready to deal with some folk. You just wait. God is getting ready to deal with some judges. And you're going to be like, my goodness, what in the world is really going on? God is getting ready to deal with some folk. I'm telling you. Because God is tired. He hears the people. He hears their prayers. But God is tired of the injustice that he's seeing in the land. That man who had laid on the ground may have perhaps been one of God's soldiers. And a white man went to go kill him. The Bible says, touch not my anointed and do thy prophet no harm. And when you touch one of God's people, you might as well have just killed yourself. You would have been better off just killing yourself or drinking bleach than to touch one of God's people. I'm telling you the truth. You just had better just did what Trump told you to do and just drink a whole full gallon of bleach rather than just touch God people. I'm honestly telling you the truth. You might as well have just hung yourself. Because when you start touching on God's people and you start killing on God's people, baby, will the wrath of God come. You know, when you a father or a mother and you touch one of their kids, what we do? We gonna go out there and fight, right? I don't care if we saved or not. You ain't finna touch my baby. I'll repent later, but right now I'm getting ready to go out here and deal with you because you didn't put your hands on my baby. Okay? Now just imagine how God feel when someone put their hands on us or treat us in an unjust manner, huh? Oh boy. Oh boy. That man he should have just followed what Trump had said and just drunk a gallon of bleach or Lysol. I'm telling you, because the wrath that's getting ready to come up on that city, baby, it ain't nothing nice. And when they get ready to come up on that city, don't say nothing. Don't you say nothing at all. Because yes, it's coming. Oh, baby, this is coming. You don't touch God's people. You don't touch the people that God, that if that's his prophet, then that was his prophet. And people need to understand that it's not just about racism, it's about power and people trying to impose fear. But baby, that white man better fear God now, okay? It's the slogan, it'll say, you better give your butt to God because you better give your soul to God because your butt is mine. You done fell into the hands of God, baby. It ain't, baby, he done just done himself an injustice. He done just really just, and all the men that knew about it and didn't say anything. I mean, not even an apology, really. That city didn't, Minneapolis didn't even give an apology. The commissioner didn't give an apology, no statement, no nothing. Really? And everybody like, well, we really don't, no. See, you don't have to know the ins and the out of what's transpired. He didn't have a gun. He wasn't running. He wasn't doing none of that stuff. The white man had his knee in his neck, and he said, I cannot breathe. And you go there, and this man goes there and put his knee in this man's neck and kill him. Now, if that was one of God's prophets, if that was one of God's anointed people, if he was one of God's chosen ones, if he was one of God's people that he had called, if he was a son of God, if he was adopted into the kingdom, I don't care if he was a backslider, he's still married to God. And he went there and messed with one of God's people, baby. Minneapolis ain't seen none of the wrath of God lately, but they won't see it. The commissioner, everybody in that department is going to see it, okay? Understand it. People in that city, they're going to see it. Because let me tell you something, God will fight for his people. I don't care if he have to tear up a whole nation. To fight for his people. He will fight for his people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes we be thinking, oh, well, God, why is this depression on us? Why is this? Why is that? Sometimes it could be that it may feel like depression, but sometimes, or oppression. Sometimes it may not be oppression. It's just that God is trying to get his people a blessing. Because God did say that the riches are stored up for the righteous, right? So with that being said, we pray, we speak out, but understand, Minneapolis is about to see God's wrath like never before. And when God start whipping, then that's when you be quiet. When God get the whooping, baby, ain't gonna be nothing nice. You know, man. If you ever got a whooping from God, you would know that it ain't nothing nice. Imagine a whole city getting a whooping. Imagine that, okay? It ain't gonna be nothing nice, cause God is gonna deal with that man. I don't care if he was white, black, Chinese, whatever the case may be. God is getting ready to deal with him, and God is getting ready to deal with that city that allowed it to happen. Because even the mayor could have said something. Nobody came out with an apology, and we have a president that we know is about himself. So a narcissist will do just whatever or say whatever to get their way. So this is the perfect opportunity for the president of the United States, the same one who said, well, drink, I think that bleach, if you drink some bleach, I think that it'll do a number in your lungs. It'll get all down in your lungs and all down in your kidneys, and it'll do a number. Yeah, it sure will do a number. And the numbers ain't positive neither, okay? This is the same president that said that, the same president that happened to just seize an opportunity to speak up on this man that had died for the sake of his presidency. You got to be careful with narcissists. You got to be careful. And because they will use an agenda, and they will prey upon the weak. They will prey upon your goodness. They will prey upon your compassion. They will prey upon whatever they need to get up on in order to climb that ladder for themselves. Okay, and that's just what the president is doing. I don't care who don't agree with me or who don't. I know a narcissist when I see him. I done been. A narcissist is just a narcissist, okay? They do all kind of tricks to get their way. And that's what we have in office. That's who people have wanted, and that's who we have in office. When there's a good king, everybody is happy. But when there's a bad king, boy, do everybody mourn. Good night.